Morning, everyone. This is David from Desert Psycho Gaming. It is Thursday. It is 7:59 a.m. and I am going to talk about buyouts. What a buyout is, and it predominantly applies to any type of thing that can be classified as a commodity. It's when there is desire in a market for something, and there's a certain amount of it. You know, sometimes there can be more than what people want. Sometimes there can be very little. But a person or a group of people go in and they buy enough of the product to reduce the supply. And with the existing demand, the price inevitably goes up. So that has happened before with gold. It's happened with other commodities. But it absolutely happens with cards. And when I first started doing this card thing, it was many years ago, I did read about buyouts, and I assumed that you had to have millions of dollars to benefit in any way from a buyout or to facilitate or start one, just to basically participate. I figured the amount of money to even participate, you had to have at least hundreds of thousands of dollars, just based on the volume of these cards. But that is absolutely not true. Now, some buyouts have failed, particularly Lotus Petal from Tempest in Magic the Gathering. There was an attempted buyout years ago. It didn't work out. People underestimated the sheer supply of this thing. But now with technology where it's at and analytics you can see in terms of current market prices, with platforms like TCG Player, it becomes a little bit easier to do. So I'm going to talk about a couple different elements of buyouts and what that means for you if you are participating in Pokemon or Magic the Gathering cards in different ways. So there are a lot of cards out there, right? Especially cards that can be targeted in a buyout. There's usually tons and tons and tons of them. Unforeseen amounts stashed away in many closets. That is general supply, but that is not market supply. And that's something I realized. So market supply is what is available online or in stores, just available for people to buy in a way that everybody could see. So individual stores may not count that much unless they have an online presence and they're easily viewable. So TCG Player is the largest marketplace for Magic the Gathering cards. I don't know where they stand on Pokemon, but I know for Magic the Gathering, it is absolutely the largest marketplace. They have charts available to the public. They have scanners that you can scan your cards and see the value. But they also show you what the current market value of a card is versus what the card is selling for. And when the prices of what a card is selling for on TCG Player way exceeds the market value, that potentially could be a sign of a buyout. It could also be some other things. But my point is, when the limited supply that is listed on TCG Player or any other major online platform that you'd be able to track on a site like MTG Goldfish, when that supply tends to get reduced, because people don't inherently just automatically start listing their cards. Not always, not in every situation when the prices start to climb. So, for example, let's go Ancient Mew, okay? Let's go Pokemon first. Pokemon Ancient Mew, I don't remember exactly the year. I think it was 2018, right? I was buying Ancient Mews for $5 a card. And I was doing well with it. I was getting them graded. I was selling them. I liked the cards. So I started buying more and more and more Ancient Mews. I was buying probably between 70 and 100 Ancient Mews a month. As many as I could get. And the more I bought and more I bought, the more I started to see the price go up. And I figured, people were doing this, right? I mean, who knows? People stopped listing so much. I didn't really think about it. But then I started to go on and look at different charts, be able to see the cards. And my graded cards were popping up everywhere. The sheer volume I was purchasing. I'm not asserting I did this independently, that there weren't others buying it too. But what can happen when you're buying a ton of cards that has a finite supply on the market, like sealed Ancient Mews? Yeah, there's a ton of them. First movie promo, super in demand still, great card. But when you're buying a lot of those, people will see the movements with the technology we have these days. So when those prices start to move up, if they're moving up quick enough, which they will if you're buying out at a price point, right? If a card costs this amount, which is cheaper at heavily played, this amount at lightly played, which is a little more expensive, and really expensive at near mint, and people buy out all of the heavily played and moderately played cards and lightly played cards, and all there is near mint, the new market value across the board is going to go to where the near mint pricing is, because that is literally the only thing available on the market. So when you're buying a bunch of these cards, you can potentially move the price based on what the supply is, where these analytics that people are looking at, where they're gathering their data. So when the prices move by a certain percentage, buyouts are known. People want to make money. So some people will look at it and like, oh crap, this card is up a lot. And also FOMO is a very, very real thing. That's fear of missing out. So as people jump in and start to buy these cards even more, the pool is already constricted. And it can behave similar to what a squeeze would in the stock market, right? Because suddenly the buyers, and it's not the same thing. I'm not saying it's a squeeze, right? It's not a short position. Like, it's way different. But in terms of that spike, right? The supply is already constricted. And then as more people move in, it starts dramatically increasing the buying on the card, and it can go completely vertical. So Ancient Mew went from $5 to $50 ungraded. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And not necessarily that fact, that happens. It's huge returns, 1,000%, but the graded market continued to rise too. And there are thousands of graded Ancient Mews. It blows my mind. The demand for that card is simply incredible. So when people start to buy in, that's where it becomes kind of the danger zone, because you don't know how much people have bought, and you don't know what price they're willing to let go of. So what can happen in a buyout is people will jack up the price enough to where either bots are being triggered to start rapid purchasing, or there's enough interest in the general community to start buying the cards themselves. And when the price gets up there, those initial purchasers can start dumping their product back into the market. Now, if there's 100,000 cards, it's going to be impossible to totally capitalize on it, because as they're dumping their product, it's increasing supply again, and it's bringing the prices down. If there's enough buying done, though, by others, it will drop the price when the cards are dumped, but it won't drop them back to where they started. And that's a way that people can make money. The way that the average seller can make money is when it's moving, or you notice market indicators for a buyout, and if you believe, obviously there's risk, but if you believe there's potential for it to run, you can get in early on these and just sort of wait and sit and watch the card go up really, really quickly, and then let it go back into the market. There's some buyouts in Magic the Gathering that are going on right now. If you look at some of the reserved list cards from Revised, Copy Artifact specifically. So that card went down there. It's back up to about $90. And when I say, when I'm alluding to a card going up in price and spiking, sometimes it can be super, super fast. Other times it can be over months. And this card is moving pretty quick. Pretty quick. Last month or two, the prices are moving on very, very specific cards. And it's because the buying has increased dramatically. This happens throughout Magic the Gathering history, throughout Pokemon history as well. So I just want to explain to everybody briefly what that is. If you hear a buyout, what that means. And do know it is possible to do a buyout as long as the market supply is low. You can participate in it. You can do it with a relatively small amount of money, based on the previous figures I gave you. That's not necessarily accurate. Now, if you were trying to buy out some revised commons. I don't know why you would do that. Yeah, you'd have to have a lot of money to buy enough to make any sort of movement in that way. So, appreciate you guys. Again, this is David at Desert Psycho Gaming. Have a great day.